I'm Becky McClure. We live at Murphy, North Carolina.
Robert McClure, Becky's husband. We was baling hay that day, and I really don't remember much about it. You know, just bits and pieces of the day. And I do remember that I couldn't get my baler to work. I was convinced that somebody else took my baler and brought me back one that wasn't mine. But anyhow, when my wife Becky got there, she is a nurse, and she realized that something was wrong. And immediately, she had said, "Well, let's go." Said, "We're going to have to take you to the hospital." And that was the way it all got started right there. She took me to the hospital, and it wasn't just a few minutes till they was moving me from room to room.
Well, we have 2 little girls that we was in the process of adopting, so we usually communicate when I get off work to see who's going to go pick them up from daycare. And I had called him, and he wasn't making sense on the phone. He would just say yes and whatever to the questions I was asking him. So I went straight home and found him on the couch, and he still didn't make sense. He just could only say yes or whatever. I asked his sisters, because he works with them, how long he'd been like that, and they said he'd been acting like that all day since about 10 o'clock that morning. They could tell something, he wasn't acting right, but he refused to go to the doctor. And so as soon as I talked to him on the phone, I knew something was wrong, and when I got home, I recognized it immediately. When we got to the ER, we checked in, and I told them that he had stroke-like symptoms, so they automatically, took him back, and they could tell. They started working him up for a stroke protocol and took him for a CT scan, and then the doctor come in and said, "We see something on the CT scan, we need to ship you. Where do you want to go?" And we said Erlanger. And so the helicopter, I think, was there within 45 minutes to take him to Erlanger. My boss drove me down, and when we got there to the ER, they took us back to the room, and then somebody come in and told us that he was just finishing up with surgery, that he'd be going to ICU. And we went to the ICU waiting room, and the doctor called and told me that, he had the clot on his brain, and they removed it, and that hopefully he would be able to talk, but they didn't know that he would be, that could be his permanent damage, because there wasn't no other signs or symptoms. But thank God, God proved a miracle through us.
Well, there was a blood clot in my leg, and then they kept hunting until they finally found it. Well, then they figured that there's a piece of it that had got broke loose, that it went obviously through my heart into my brain, and but they couldn't really discover how it happened. And they done their bubble test, what they call, and when they done it, then they found the hole where it was at.
We took the Eliquis for 6 months, the blood thinner, and then we followed back up. They done the heart monitor to make sure that he didn't have atrial fibrillation, and that was negative, so they could go in and do the PFO. And we went back, and they done that as outpatient, and he's off the blood thinner, just taking aspirin now.
I know that Erlanger has some fine, outstanding doctors, some of the best in the world, as far as I'm concerned, and I think that's a proven fact too. But it is just a true blessing that we've got a hospital of that quality this close to home, and not only there, that they're moving into the Murphy area to work in the mountain area, where that we've normally not been able to have that class of doctors.
We're just thankful that we had the local hospital here at Murphy to come to, and they could recognize the stroke symptoms quickly and get us where we needed to be. We're glad that they're in partnership with Erlanger, that we could get there quickly. The helicopter was stationed here, so it arrived within minutes, and can get him down there, and they could get on with the surgery before any further damage